I've been wanting to do this since the beginning of March. Today I am going to be planting some spring vegetables. It's a little bit late in the season. It's early to mid-April right now, and I haven't planted anything outside yet. The only thing that I have planted is some vegetables that I use the winter sowing method with in the tub method, and they're just starting to sprout, and I think some of them I have to reseed again, but because it looks like they haven't sprouted yet. Right here I have all the vegetables that I'm going to be planting this spring, mostly the ones that I'm going to be direct sowing. And I also have my garden planter, and I have this stick over here that's going to help me make some rows in the beds so that I can have a pretty even rows where I plant my vegetables. So if you've watched my how I plan my vegetable garden video, and I'll link it down below if you haven't. In that video I have showed you how I plan my vegetable garden and how I decide where to plant what and why. And I'm going to look over my my plan for the spring vegetable garden, and I'm going to plant over here the things that I need to direct sow. There are some things that I started from seed, and those will be planted after they grow a little bit. But today I'm only going to be doing the direct sowing in the beds, whatever beds I can do. And let me show you the plans. This right here is the raised bed that's right behind me on this side over here. And I have in here going some Makeover lettuce, scarlet carrots, romaine lettuce, and ducat dill, and the purple peony poppy. So today I'm going to be direct sowing the scarlet carrot and the ducat dill and the purple peony poppies. Those are the only things I'm going to be sowing in this bed. The rest are already seeded in some pots, and they're sitting up on the deck because that's the safest place where they're not going to get blown away by the wind, because we've been having some pretty strong winds over here. Before I plant anything in the bed, I always add some amendments. So today I'm just adding some fertilizer. Last fall I did my direct compost method, which is where I get all the kitchen scraps from the vegetables and eggs and all that stuff, and I put it directly in the beds, and I make sure to put plenty in that bed, and then I cover it with soil. And I also added some leaf matter and some cardboard. You can go ahead and watch that video. I'll leave a link for it in the description box below if you're interested in knowing how I amend my beds in that way. This provides organic compost for the beds. I don't have to buy compost to add into the beds. All I have to add is just the fertilizer. The beds that did not get that will be getting some compost just to add a little bit extra amendments to them, because I can only use this method on so many beds because we have a lot of raised beds over here, and we don't make that much waste to go into the raised beds, so I can only add what we have come out of the kitchen or the garden. These two beds over here are still being amended with the kitchen scraps, and I'm going to be covering them with some soil, and that's totally fine. I also do that most years. That's what I do because I don't have soil to bury the compost, and then I just end up tilling it into the soil. But right now I do have a trailer full of dirt that I need to, of soil that I need to move over here and put into these raised beds, but I haven't gotten to it yet because last fall when I was trying to get it over here, I got stuck in the mud and I wasn't able to move it over to this area because I added too much soil into it. I got a little overzealous because I was trying to just be done with that chore. I had a lot of beds to fill up, and that was my mistake, that I just wanted to be done and I overfilled it. But that's okay. I'll just use the wheelbarrow this spring and lighten the load, and then I'll end up using the lawnmower to pull that over here again. So that's what's going to be happening in these two beds. I'm also going to be taking down this fencing. We're going to be using it for the animals, and I have another plan. Unfortunately, it does not involve an arched fence because I think it's very difficult to have that in our area with all the heavy snow that we get. It's possible if I use these wide square cattle panel ones. If I do that, then that's probably not going to go down under the heavy load of the snow. I'm thinking I'm going to try a different method and see how that works for us. And then if I see that we need more, then I might go back with the arched fences and do that. So we'll try out some different methods and see what we can do about this. But right now, let's go ahead and let me show you what I'm going to be planting right now. It is 83 degrees today, and it's insane. I can't believe that this is these are the temperatures that we are having. This week has been okay. This week has been really warm. We did have mostly temperatures in the 60s and a couple days in the 70s, like very low 70s. But today is really hot. I'm sweating. So let's go ahead, divide this bed up, and start direct sowing these seeds over here. So according to the plan, on this side over here, we are going to be having the May Queen lettuce, and then next to them, we're going to be having the scarlet carrots, another thin row of that. And then after the scarlet carrots, we're going to have the romaine lettuce. And in the middle, between everything, I'm going to be planting some ducat dill. And then right after that, again, some May Queen lettuce and scarlet carrots, and then the peonies. Each of these rows is going to be 1 foot wide. In the middle, the ducat dill is the only row that's going to take 2 feet width, because that's going to grow a little bit wider than the rest. And also, the dill is not going to grow super fast like the rest of these things. The moment that it will reach its peak height is going to be in the summer, and by that time I would have already removed these plants and I would be planting something else in their place, some summer plants that are going to be already potted up. And also it's in the middle, so it's not really going to shade anything because it's facing that direction straight. And if it was in the front of the bed, then it would shade the bed, but I'm putting it vertically in the bed. When you are planting carrots, you could either plant them very thickly and then go afterwards and thin them, and you'd end up with sort of baby carrots. They're not exactly baby carrots, but it's close enough, because there are varieties of carrots that grow smaller than the average carrot. If you want those small carrots, then you should plant those and not the long carrots. But with these, you can plant them very thickly and then come afterwards and thin them and use the carrots, the smaller carrots, for fresh eating or whatever you choose. I'm going to plant seed by seed because that's how I like to do it. I like things to be organized, and I don't like to come back and thin because I feel like I'm murdering plants, and that's not what I want. The seed packet says to sow them 2 to 4 inches apart, and these take 65 days to maturity, so by the time summer comes, these would be ready to be harvested. You could plant carrots very close together, so the closer together you plant them, of course, the thinner they're going to be. So if you want your carrots to have a thicker diameter, then you want to plant them a little bit farther apart. But what that also means that you're going to have a lot more weed pressure, and when you have little seedlings, you really want to be on top of it, and you want to be constantly weeding so that the weeds don't overtake your seedlings, and because those seedlings are going to have a hard time reaching the sunlight. So and they need the sun in order to grow and to photosynthesize, so that they can put in energy into their roots and grow. So you want to make sure to be on top of those weeds when they're still in their infancy stages, even after, in my opinion, because those weeds are going to take nutrients away from your plants. So the more you weed, the healthier your plants will be. There are some weeds that are beneficial that can help with deterring insects, but if you want something that deter or bring on beneficial insects, you can plant that on purpose, like zinnias or sweet alyssum or parsley. Parsley, of course, that's going to be maybe loved by some of the butterflies, like the tiger swallow butterfly, but if you plant an alternative plant such as dill for the tiger swallow butterflies, then they're more likely go to the dill than the parsley because the smell of the dill is, I think, more appealing to them and is stronger than parsley. And I have never experienced any bug pressure on my parsley, and either way, I always wash it anyways. I soak my vegetables whenever I plant them, whenever I bring them inside after harvesting. I soak them in some salt, cold water with salt in it, lots of salt, so that if there are any bugs in there, it kills the bugs. And then I just rinse them often, and I give them a good look over just to make sure there aren't any insects on them. That's for beneficial plants that will help in deterring insects. So if you want something to stop insects, I think you're better off planting something than having weeds in your garden, because the thing with the weeds is that a lot of them are good plants, but the problem is that they just seed themselves so heavily and it's hard to get rid of them. That's the problem. So if you have an area in your garden where you don't mind to have that problem, you can specifically let that area go and have the weeds that you pick the weeds that you want to grow in there and just let them flourish, and you can weed out the things that might bring insects, like chickweed, for example. That's one of the weeds that will bring on aphids, because the aphids will lay their eggs on it. Now, that could be a myth, I'm not sure. I can do some more research on that, but it's one of those things I think that people have a lot of opinions about. But so I'm going to plant these about let's see, 2 inches apart. I don't like my carrots to be super thick, and whenever I'm cooking with carrots, I like to dice them really thinly in small pieces. So if I'm going to grow carrots, I like them to be thin. Going to go ahead and plant them 2 inches apart from each other, both in rows and next to each other as well, like rows and vertically and horizontally, both. This one right here is going to be carrots. I'm going to make some lines with my fingers just to kind of guide me on where I'm going to be planting the carrots, so that I don't lose where I put the seeds, and then I can go over them and bury them. So the depth for these is about 1/8 to 1/4 inch. It's okay, you don't have to be precise, they will germinate. Even sometimes if they're on top of the soil and they're receiving enough moisture, they will still germinate. So I'm going to use this little thing over here so that it doesn't, I was going to use my finger, but I don't like to dirty my fingers. So I'm going to use this stick over here to make the line. One thing I like to do when I'm direct sowing is writing down some labels and putting them down where I planted that specific variety. And right now I don't have any labels with me because I totally forgot, and I am not going inside right now because if I do, my little one is going to chase me and she's going to stop me from doing this. And I really need to get some things done in the garden because it's getting a little bit late in the season. One question you might have is, how can I keep track of where I put the seeds in the ground, because it's, you know, everything looks the same, and if I am putting down 2 seeds at a time 2 inches apart, and carrot seeds are pretty small and you can't see them after you put them down. So the way how I keep track of that is I look at the soil. I have some kind of little pebble-like shape pieces or some bigger pieces, and I kind of put my eye on that where I put the last seed in there, and that's how I keep track, so I don't put some seeds, so I don't put seeds in the same place where I already planted. I end up with tons of carrots in that same place. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but it does to me. I'm sure I put some seeds exactly in the same location, like maybe 4 or 8 of them in the same place. That happens, but I'll just thin those out. It's not a big deal, but I don't like to end up with tons of carrots and having to thin out so much, because, you know, seeds are you buy a packet of seed, you have only a limited amount of seeds in there, and you know, a packet of seed, depending on where you buy it from, can range from $2.50 to $4. And you know, that sums up if I have a lot of seeds that I'm planting, and I plant most everything from seeds, so I try to minimize the cost of things, and that's one way to do it. Again, that's not the reason why I do it, but that's an added bonus because I am planting tons of stuff, so again, minimizing the cost is a bit important. So I planted one row of carrots. I still need to do the next row. I'm not sure I can do anything else today, but I'll try. One very important thing to note about whenever you are direct sowing or just seed starting in general is that you have to keep that seed moist. If the seed dries up during the germination period, that's going to kill that seed and it's going to stop it from germinating and giving you the plant that you want. So with this method, I have over here some irrigation tubes that I put down, and I'm using soaker hose, and these kind of give me a little bit of trouble. I'll put them down and I'll water, and we are still in spring technically, even though today it's 83 degrees. But if I need to water these, give these supplemental water, then I'll just bring out the hose and give them a little sprinkle so that the surface of the soil does not dry out, because these seeds are sitting at almost the very surface of the soil, and that surface dries out super fast. The deeper you go down, the more moisture is going to be. But because carrot seeds are planted at a shallow depth, you have to make sure that that surface does not dry out. So top watering them with a hose that has a fine kind of mist to it, that's going to help with keeping the seeds moist and allowing them to and having proper germination. Another method that you could use is by putting something to keep the moisture on the surface of the soil, like maybe a piece of cardboard or something like that, or something that's not going to get hot, that's going to allow the soil to stay warm and but not cook the soil. So a piece of cardboard is a great idea, and the problem with that is once the seeds germinate, if they don't see the light, they're going to yellow, and you have to check on that a couple times a day, especially the closer you get to the germination period of those seeds. So these take about 14 to 21 days to germinate. So they might germinate earlier. If your soil temperature is warmer, then you might end up with carrots germinating super early, and that's why it's important to keep checking on them if you do use the method where you cover them to allow the seeds to germinate. I'm not going to do that because I don't know if I'll be able to come out here some days. So I will be putting the irrigation in there, but I won't be depending on that solely to water the seedlings. I'm going to be hooking the hose today. It's an irrigation system where I can just hook the hose to it. I set it up. I have a video on that as well, and you can check it out. I'll leave a link to that also in the description box. One important thing to note about carrots is that they are a root. Duh, right? But the thing with roots is that if they don't have water on the surface of the soil around them, like shallow water, they're going to go deep into the soil and search for the water deep in the soil. So once the carrots start to grow out of the seedling stage, then it's very important to water them deeply and less often than everyday watering, because what that's going to do is that it's going to cause the carrots to go down into the soil to search for the water. It's going to make the carrots straight and long because they are searching for that water. Again, in the early stages when the carrots are super tiny and they need a lot of attention, it's very important to provide them with consistent moisture so the seedlings do not dry out and die. But once that stage is over and they're at the kind of junior plant stage, then you can start doing that. You can probably water them once a week if you don't live in a super dry area. Or if you live in a super dry area, you might want to water them twice a week so that they can go down deep into the soil and search for that moisture, because the deeper it is, the more moisture there is. And if you are afraid about the soil drying out too much, one thing you can do is either put down mulch if you live in a super dry area, or just plant some plants with big leaves around them that are not going to kind of crowd out the carrots, but are just going to shade the soil and stop the moisture from evaporating too quickly. I have one more thing to plant, and that is peony. Let me check my plant to make sure I'm planting the correct peony in here. So I'm going to be planting the purple peony poppy in the last row on this side. And I did also purchase some breadseed poppies, and I'm really curious on how those are going to work out, because I would like to save some of the seeds to use on things like bagels and stuff like that, because I do make homemade bagels and a lot of baked goods, and I also have some gluten-free recipes, and you can check them out. I'll leave the link to my website in the description box below if you're interested, if you know someone that is gluten-free, or if you are gluten-free yourself and would like some recipes. So you can check out the website for that. I have plenty of recipes there, and I also have some blog posts about gardening and food preservation and all that. I would like to add some more in the future once I have a little bit more time on hand. Right now my time is a little bit too short. So I planted these poppies last year in the bed that's right next to them, and they're not going to seed themselves, even though they did drop out tons of seeds, because I did, oh, there's something in my shoe and it's hurting me. Oh. Even though these poppies dropped out a lot of seeds last year in the bed where I planted them, I did end up covering that bed with tons of new soil, so those poppies don't have any chance to germinate, because the seed depth has to be about 1/4 inch, and those seeds are buried, I don't know, about 6 inches deep, or deeper than that, maybe 6 to 8 inches deep, because that bed was pretty empty, and I did load it up with stuff, in-ground compost or direct composting, and with tons of soil, so there's no chance for those poppies to germinate. And the flowers on these poppies are absolutely magnificent, and of course poppies like cool temperatures. Right now it is super hot, but that's not a regular over here during this season. It does happen every now and then, but not so often in the spring. And our last frost date is between May 20th to June 10. It depends on the year. That can vary from year to year, especially with our house, with the way how our land is positioned. It seems that we are colder. We have like a microclimate than some of the areas around us. Like for example, last season we ended up getting frost a lot earlier than most of the people that were around us, and even in areas that were slightly higher than us. So that means that we probably have some cooler temperatures than the areas around us, and a longer spring. Not by much, but maybe like a week or two or so. I don't know. Poppies, if you didn't know, are also frost hardy. It takes the same amount of days as the carrots to germinate, so 14 to 21 days. I'm not sure what soil temperatures the poppies like to germinate at. I'm honestly not sure what soil temperature carrots like to germinate at either, but I do know that they like a warm soil temperature to germinate. And I'm guessing that with this heat wave that we are having right now, that the soil is going to warm up and going to help these carrots germinate faster. This package says also to space the plants about 10 inches apart. I noticed that you can space them a little bit closer because they kind of grow tall and narrow, and if you want to use them for cut flowers, planting them a little close to each other is going to make those flowers grow a little bit taller than they would if they were too far apart from each other, because then they're going to look for the sun and grow a little bit taller for you. This row is where the poppies are going to be going, and I'm going to make a few rows, maybe 3 rows or 2, and plant the poppies in there. To be fully honest with you, I do not like these soaker hoses. I have had bad experience with them. The reason why I got them in the first place is because it was the cheaper option to go with. And also, I did run the hose a lot longer than you're supposed to, because I did not want to buy too much of the fittings at the time because I had a lot to install, so I was trying to save up a little bit on the cost of this whole system. But if I were to do it again, which I will eventually, I will put a poly tube vertically in the bed at the shorter side, and then I will tap into it and take out multiple 1/4 inch hoses from that for the several rows that I will be having in that bed. And also, I would not go with soaker hoses. I would go with a drip tubing because that operates so much better than the soaker hoses. The soaker hoses seem to fail a little bit after, I don't know, like the period of after the first season or after 8 months or so. They start to kind of clog up and not soak up the water everywhere, and they have some dry spots in them. So that would not be my first option. And if I were to do it again, I would go with the drip tube, even though it was more expensive at the time, because that would save up money in the long run, because you're not spending that money over and over. You'll eventually have to replace it, but a lot less than the soaker hoses, because those just fail a lot faster. So I also would be putting some staples on this. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't have them with me. I'll just come maybe in the evening and put those staples down, and I'll also put down the labels where I planted the carrots. I still have the rows there, so I'll be I know where I planted the carrots. And the staples are just there to kind of keep the soaker hose where I want it to be, because otherwise it will just kind of go wherever it wants to, and the water pressure will shake it as well and cause it to even flay out more than it should. So I planted today successfully peonies, sorry, not peonies, poppies, purple peony poppies, and scarlet carrots. That's good. I think that's progress, and this is what I do. I just do a little bit every day, because if you are busy and you have a busy life, you know, just do whatever you can, and the time that you have, even just 20 minutes outside or 15 minutes, you know, when you're not filming, that what I did over here would take you a lot less than what I'm doing. This is taking me about an hour or maybe more. I don't know. I didn't keep track of time. Because I am filming and I have to stop and talk to you guys, and I have to move the camera and show you all the different angles. But if you are just doing this quickly on your own, it might take you between 15 to 20 minutes, and you can do this. Go ahead, plant some vegetables in your garden, plant some flowers, and enjoy the beauty that God has given us, and also the harvest of the fruit of your labor. And you'll be so happy when you harvest something from your garden. It's just so satisfying, and there's nothing that replaces the flavor of homegrown organic food, and especially not just the flavor but the quality. That's what matters to me the most, is more than the flavor, even though that's important to me, very important. Yes, sweetie. Yeah. The quality of the food is a lot more important to me, because I want organic food, and I want to know what's going in it and on it. One thing I totally forgot about, and that is the Ducat dill, and I'm going to be planting this right now. I removed the irrigation from this bed, and I'm going to be actually using a sprinkler to water this bed. It's my kid's sprinkler. I don't know if it's enough because it has a gentle flow. I'll just move it around a few times to make sure that all the seeds get covered. And with this, you are supposed to plant it about 18 inches apart from each other and at a 1/4 inch depth. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't have to film this, but you get the idea. I also got the tags, so I'm going to be putting these down, not for everything, because I just remembered that I have some tags that are sitting in the pots where I planted the seeds, and so I'll just take those tags and put them in the places where I'm going to be planting those plants. And I also have the plan on my planner to let me know what is going where, so I can just look back at that and know exactly where I planted there. So it's all watered in, and the water kind of dislodged some of the soil over here, so I went ahead and sowed a few more poppies in here just to make sure that there will be something that will grow here. I did use the sprinkler that is for the kids. It's just a cheap sprinkler, and it broke. It was leaking everywhere, and that's what caused this. But for the rest of the bed, it worked out pretty good. So everything is planted, and I'll go ahead and put the irrigation on a different day. I just don't want to do that right now. I really have to go inside, get dinner ready. It's getting late in the day. It's around 4 o'clock. I still haven't planted my tomatoes. I haven't planted a lot of the stuff that I really need to get going, and I'm just waiting because I haven't had the time to set up the grow light system yet, and I can't grow anything inside the house without the grow light system because the plants would just grow super leggy, and I don't want that. You know, I could, I suppose, put them outside, but then I'd have to, you know, buy more bins, or I'd have to try to collect all my orange juice containers, because that's what I use, and use that for planting tomatoes outside, and everything else that I need to do. Anyway, so I have a lot that's going on. I have tons of plans for this garden over here. I'm actually going to be doing a couple rows of cut flower of zinnias, a couple rows of zinnias, so that's going to be going there. So I might plant a few more rows somewhere else, just to kind of have a few different varieties. And so I'll take you along, guys, with me on all of that. I have tons of planting and tons of changing stuff around over here, and so be on the lookout for that. And if you haven't yet subscribed already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like these kind of videos, if you like this content. And I don't know, you might hate this content, you might hate me. It's okay, you don't have to be here. It's better not to if you don't like me, or if you don't like my videos. No big deal. In fact, I prefer that if you don't come if you don't like me or like my videos. Alright, so that's it for today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and if you like this video, go ahead and click that like button. I'll be leaving a few videos for you over here to watch, and you can click on those. In the meantime, while I'm working on the other videos to upload for you guys. And also don't forget to check out the videos in the description box below, and I'll be leaving a few links for the things that I used over here if you're interested in any of the things that I have over here. So I'll be putting down my affiliate links if you want to get any of these things. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.